Hello, welcome to Expressing and Assessing Program Theory, Rossi Chapter 5. My name is Taya. Let's get started. So this chapter talks about what is program theory. It is a concept of what must be done to bring about the intended social benefit that the program is trying to do. It is also an explanation of why the program does what it does and the rationale for expecting those actions will achieve the desired results. The program's theory must be clearly expressed and complete enough for review before an evaluation can be conducted. So if we, for example, take battered women, the social benefit of the program would be to stop female abuse. But in order to do that, we need the explanation and rationale. So if we offer counseling and pass out flyers to battered women's shelters, the expectation is that those results will lower women being abused. But before a program theory evaluation can be conducted, there's something called an evaluability assessment, which is on page 136 of the textbook. So prior to conducting the evaluation, this evaluability assessment can be applied to a program to ensure clarity of evaluative outcome. And the point of it is that it's trying to describe and understand the program as it is viewed by the personnel and stakeholders. There's three parts to this process. The first is a description of the program model. And in that model, you need to check, are the goals and objectives well defined? And are they plausible? Can they happen? Part two is assessment of how well defined and evaluative that model is. And evaluable that model is, And here is where you need data. Do you have that data? Do you have access to that data? Can it be easily collected? Keeping in mind that if there is no data available and it needs to be collected, that will increase the length of the evaluation. And then the third part is identification of stakeholder interest in evaluation. So who sponsors this evaluation and how will the results of that evaluation be used? So everybody's clear on that. So after these three steps is when the actual evaluation can begin. So there's three parts of a program theory: impact theory, utilization plan, and organizational plan. So the impact theory is the assumption about the change actuated by the program and the improved condition as a result. This is like your big goal. The utilization plan is the assumptions and expectations of how to reach the target population. So remember we were talking about the example of battered women. Our target population are women either being abused or are susceptible to being abused, right? And our impact theory is to get rid of women being abused. Part three is the organizational plan, and it's the nitty-gritty, the resources, personnel, administration, and general organization of your program that will needs to happen for your impact theory to really come true. So, speaking about the impact theory, what it does is it describes the cause and effect sequence where program actions eventually lead to outcomes, and those outcomes lead to social conditions, to the change in social conditions. Unfortunately, programs rarely have a direct control over social condition that they aim to improve. For example, a program to help abused women can't just take away all abuse from happening. So what program must do is work indirectly by changing critical but manageable aspects of the situation. For example, they can do stuff like teach doctors warning signs of abuse, have seminars on ways to cope with stress and female empowerment, or offer legal protection to battered women, or have an abuse hotline, or pass out flyers at women's shelters. And all those things will work to lower instances of female abuse, but it doesn't mean that it'll be 100% solved. So the organizational plan includes functions and activities that the program expects to perform, as well as human, financial, and physical resources it needs for those functions. For example, it includes services a program offers that are meant to lead to societal change. So if our services are counseling for abused women, or legal protection or legal counseling, providing women with places to live if a woman wants to leave home, and all those things, those are our services, but they also need that human and financial and physical resource. So that also includes fundraising, facilities acquisition, management of personnel. There's a good model in your book on page 145. But if we're looking at our example, counselors, we need actual counselors to lead the sessions. We need lawyers to give out the legal advice, right? We need space and staff to have shelters. We need a phone operator, a phone, and an office, and all those things need to be accounted for. There's two essential types of program theory, articulated and implicit. Articulated means that it is spelled out in documents and well understood by the staff. Most likely, it occurs when a program design is based in social theory. For example, in schools, when we do bully prevention programs, there's a lot of role play that students participate in. And that's because there's social research that supports that young people doing role play impacts their decisions and actions. The implicit theory is when the assumptions about the program services are kind of lost. They're not articulated. An example from the book is marriage counseling, meaning that when you're having problems in your marriage, it is good to talk them out, but there's no specific social research that supports the best format or time. And so when this is the case, when there's an implicit theory, the evaluator must first determine the theory before conducting an actual evaluation. So if this is the case, we need to explicate the program theory, and the evaluator must assess the assumptions and actions of the stakeholders to come up with this theory. And it needs to be realistic, and it needs to focus on actual goals and results of the program. The evaluator needs to identify each program component, its function, and the activities that are associated with that function. Because this theory is largely based on observation and a lot of inference, there may be some discrepancy between the theory that the evaluator comes up with and the reality of the program. To kind of second check that, the evaluator can present this theory to the stakeholders for approval. And only after getting that approval is when the actual evaluative work starts. So, assessing program theory. The most important framework for assessing program theory is its centered around social justice, social need. The evaluator must have a thorough understanding first of the social problem that the program is trying to address. For example, in our case, battered women, right? The evaluator must know the specific needs of the target population of the program, so women being abused or who are at risk of being abused, maybe those who were abused in the past. The program that doesn't adequately address the needs of its population is obviously not making strides towards improving its social problem, and therefore it's inefficient. It is important for program theory to be specific because the more general the terms are, the more confusion there could be. Also, a good theory should have a relationship between services and outcomes and the gradual improvement of social conditions. All those things should be related in a good program theory. So you can assess it through logic and plausibility through this set of questions. You can look at the program goals and objectives and say, are they well defined? And they really should be as specific as possible. Are the program goals and objectives feasible, meaning that they're not too grandiose, right? That you, for example, if you have a program to help poverty, you can't just say, I'm going to get rid of poverty in the whole world. Be more targeted. Is the change process presumed in the theory plausible? Meaning the services that the program is providing, are they really going to make a difference to the target population? Are the procedures for identifying the target population and sustaining services well defined? For example, can your target population get to the location of your program? And do you have enough staff? So if you have a battered women's shelter, is it near an area where there's a lot of battered women? And is it open? Are there people to talk to these women finding the place there? Are the functions of the program well defined? Are they practical? Will it be helpful? Are the resources allocated to the program adequate? More simply put, do you have enough money and people to work the program, to work the phone? Another way to assess programs is through comparison with research, asking the question, are the actions and outcomes of the program congruent to the research that already exists? Another way to do it through research is to break down the program theory into a bunch of if-then parts and compare that with existing research. For example, if the teacher-student ratios are higher, then students will get more individual attention and then delinquent behavior will decrease. Taking that small part of a program theory, there is a lot of research that says, yes, less kids per teacher does mean more individual attention, does mean lower instances of bad behavior. These results can show strongholds and loopholes of the program theory. So when the program theory is broken up into different parts, if 4 of the 5 parts are supported by research but 1 isn't, the 4 are your stronghold, and then the 1 that isn't supported is the loophole. So there is also assessment with preliminary observation. It's exactly what it sounds like. An evaluator can observe the program in action. He or she can talk to staff and recipients and make targeted inquiries. And direct observation is good because it can often serve as a reality check between the actual program and the supposed program theory to see if what the program is intending to do and saying it's doing is actually what it's doing in action. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.